I don't really know what to talk about this week. I've had quite a difficult week myself, and I never want to be hypocritical and sort of come on here and pretend I've got everything worked out when I don't. So this one's a bit different in that I've just selected like 3 questions and I'm just going to do my best to answer them. So one is please talk about letting go of things you can't control. Apologising to friends, sometimes over apologising and agreeing without sticking up for yourself, but they still don't want to be friends anymore. What I'm hearing in that one is boundaries. Boundaries come in so many different forms. Time, like only giving a certain amount of time to something. What you consume, only having X amount of social media per day or the news per day or whatever. Your physical space and how much you're comfortable with people coming into that, saying no, helping, like what you offer. And with friendships particularly, the line in that question about not sticking up for yourself, I think that can be where boundaries get blurry, because we don't want to upset someone or we try and preempt what they might need. And that's an example of us taking on too much. That doesn't belong to us. How somebody's going to react or what they need or any of that, that isn't on us, that's on them. Sometimes, if you feel you're doing everything for the other person, that's really nice, but if somebody didn't ask that of you, you can't then be pissed off if you feel like they're not meeting you halfway. That's quite a difficult thing to come to terms with sometimes, because you think, well, I'd do that for them and I want to be that, and that's fine, but then you can't expect anything in return. I say to my friends when they're hurting about something and they're like, I'm going to send a letter or I'm going to send a message, I just want them to understand, and I always say to them, okay, if the letter's going to help you, send it, but do not expect anything back. Like you need to work out what you want to send that for, because if it's a response or an apology or any of those things, you're probably not going to get it, because if you were, you wouldn't have to send the letter in the first place. A lot of the time we do something because we're hoping for a certain response or reaction, and we don't own that and we have no control of that. You have to get closure, you have to get acceptance, understanding, all of these things you have to get from yourself. And that's difficult. I think expectations are killer. Expecting certain things of people, particularly because we do that for them. Everybody's different and everybody has a different capacity, different priorities. Everybody's life's different. I touched on it a little bit in my last video. You can only really take people as they are, and if something's not working for you, if something that they're doing isn't working for you, then all you can do is take yourself out of that situation, put up a boundary and know that actually that's not working for me right now, so I'm going to remove myself. You can't make somebody change. You don't own that. You own how you react to it. That's true in romantic relationships, and I think that's true in friendships. And again, like I touched on with the last video, with attaching things, often someone might be behaving in a way and it feels off to us. It's very easy to attach all sorts of meanings. It could just be that they've had a bad day. If something feels a bit off, you just have to take a step back, look at what you're feeling, think about why, and then assess what you need and give yourself that. But you can't expect it from them. If your friend doesn't want to be friends with you anymore, you have to respect that. You have to respect them enough to give them that space, and by all means let them know that you love them and you'll be there, but that you're going to respect their boundaries and give them that space. You can apologise till you're blue in the face, but ultimately it's up to that person to forgive you. Alongside that, you have to forgive yourself and know that we make mistakes. It doesn't make you a bad person. You should never judge somebody on one thing that they've done. Repeat offender, fine, but we'll all have done something ugly at some point in our lives. It doesn't make us nasty, and you have to forgive yourself from that. And as long as you learn from it and don't repeat offend, then you really can forgive yourself. There's no point having a toxic relationship, and if that person isn't ready to be your friend, then you have to give them that space, and hopefully in time it will come back around, or it won't. But that's the other thing as well. We change, much as in romantic relationships, things don't always work out. It doesn't mean it was a waste of time or that you didn't love that person. And it's the same with friendship. Definitely sort of in my mid-20s to late 20s, I fell out of love with friends and they fell out of love with me, and it was quite a difficult thing, and sometimes it does feel like a breakup because you have such tight, close-knit relationships, and then all of a sudden things change and you're on different paths and it doesn't feel the same anymore, and you don't really know how to address it, and it can get quite messy. I think for me, I was always very much like, no, you're my best friend and we'll be friends forever. Life just doesn't really work like that. I think sometimes it's just nicer to let those things go rather than try and force it. No good comes of forcing anything. We can advise people, but we can't make them learn the lesson. They have to do it for themselves. I think I'm definitely guilty of it, feeling responsible for people and being like, oh, this is what you should do, but I, you know, I don't own that, and it's got nothing to do with me. And I think for me, definitely now I'm just going to kind of listen, and if they ask for advice, cool. If they don't take it, cool. But it's easy to sort of take it personally if you're like, well, I've given you advice 25 times, but it's like sometimes you just don't know it until you've been through it, and you have to give people that space to work things out for themselves. And sometimes that space means you taking a step back and really being like, I can't be around to watch you F this up. We can sometimes take ownership of wanting to help, and you know, wanting to be, and this is the right thing, and this is, well, no, like, yeah, morally it might be the right thing, emotionally it might be the right thing, might be the right thing that's going to save them loads of pain, but for them right now they need to do the wrong thing. Like, that's the best way of learning, isn't it? Like making the mistake or having it be done to you. We want to protect people, but you can't, and if you wrapped everybody up in cotton wool, they'd never learn anything, and that's not helpful either. The healthy way of removing toxic people from your life. Tricky one. The healthy way of removing toxic people from your life. Depends what kind of toxic. If they're a narcissist, the best way is no contact or grey rock, which is be as uninteresting as possible. Show no emotion. But ideally no contact, because they mainly just want a rise, they just want a reaction, even a negative one from you, because that's how they get their supply. If it's a sort of just generally toxic situation, again, it's boundaries and making that decision for yourself, that these are my boundaries, this is what I'm prepared to do, this is what I need for me. If that person hasn't completely disrespected you, if it's sort of toxic on both levels, and it's just a bit of a volatile mix or a toxic mix of personalities, then I think you are well within your rights to sort of be like, this relationship has grown toxic for me and I need some space and blah blah blah. You could explain it. If there's somebody who is manipulative, who might try and get their way back in, I think maybe don't do that. Maybe just take the space, or just send a very sort of closed, the grey rock method that they talk about with narcissism, where there's no emotion, there's no open-ended questions. It's just very much like, this is what I'm doing, just so that you know. I think another thing with removing toxic people from your life is trying not to feel guilty, because it's not always about them. A lot of the time it's about you. Sometimes you don't even realise it's about you until you've had the space. I think if it's somebody worth knowing, they'll understand that, and I live it now. There's one person in particular I can think of who I was inseparable with, but we were just both in difficult places, and it was just getting toxic and messy and difficult. And then we loved each other so much that you take things out on each other, and it just got really toxic, and we just had space. And then I just really missed him. It was when I thought I was getting married, actually. And I thought, God, I'd feel really weird if he wasn't at my wedding, because he's just so much part of me. So I reached out, and he was like, oh my God, I've been thinking about you. And he came over that night, and we just drank, and it went straight back to normal. We haven't had to apologise to each other, because we know what it was about and we needed the space. Ultimately, it was to protect each other, and we knew it was our own stuff we had to deal with, and we were on different paths, and we had to do that for a bit, and we did, and then we've come back together. So I think forgiving yourself for cutting somebody out of your life is really important, because it can be quite a difficult thing to do, but ultimately sometimes it's the kindest thing to do. And also allow yourself to grieve. It's cool to feel sad about it, and just know that, yeah, sometimes things were what they were, and they ran their course, and we move on. We move. Sometimes your lives, keep going together, and sometimes they do that, and sometimes they'll do that again, and sometimes they won't, and it's all just part of the journey. Friendships and what you expect from friends during a breakup. Again, I don't think you can expect anything. I think you can hope during my breakup, I was overwhelmed by the love that my friends showed me. A couple of days after it had ended on what should have been our engagement party, they like flocked round. Like 10 of them were at the house. And friends I'd not seen in a while as well just showed up. I just felt like I had this massive safety net around me. And I was so grateful. But I remember all of them were like, it's a reflection of you, because you show us love and all these people love you because of you. And it was the most amazing feeling. And those people that did that for me would have that as well, because that's the kind of people they are. Friendships are hard work. It's that merrily we roll along. Friendship's like a garden. You have to water it and tend to it and care for it, and then it grows. I really love that. If you put the work in and you keep friends around you where you have that mutual respect for each other, I think you can automatically expect that they'll show up. I think generally expectations are bad. I try and not have expectations, and maybe that's a sad thing, but I have been let down a lot in my life and a lot of things haven't worked out, so I'm quite scared of expectation. But I don't know that that's good advice. I'm scared of expectation, but I'm still hopeful. That's the only advice I could give, but I could be absolutely wrong. I'm no expert. I don't expect the best, but I also don't expect the worst. The best way to manage your expectations is to just be a good person and do as you would be done by, and take time to show people that you care. Have your own boundaries, be your own best friend. And I guess don't expect anything from anyone else that you can't give yourself. That's what I'm really learning and working on. I want to be able to do it all for me. I want to be able to be financially secure for me. I want to be able to pick myself up on a bad day. I don't want to seek any of that in anyone else. Any expectations you have, you should be able to fulfill them yourself. And then if you can do that, if your friends like show up, then that's double amazing. And if they're like, come on babe, you chill, let me take this one for the team, amazing. But that's the goal. The only expectations you should have are on yourself, I think. Again, don't take it personally. If somebody's not there in the way that you hoped they might be, or the way that they've been before, it doesn't mean that they don't care. It's just everybody's fighting their own battles, and everybody does it in a different way. Sometimes their boundaries mean that they just can't be there for you in the way that you would expect them to be. And that's why expectation's kind of dangerous, because it's maybe not that they don't want to be, it's that they can't be, and there's a big difference. Go easy on the expectation, but notice who showed up for you and return the favour whenever you can. All comes full circle, and it's all about self-love and self-acceptance and letting go of what you can't control, which is everyone and everything other than you, really. So it's about getting really comfortable with yourself to being your own best friend. If you can give yourself absolutely everything that you need, then everything else is a bonus, and then you can enjoy it more, because you don't need anything from somebody else or something else or somewhere else. You have that within you, so you just choose what feels good, and you can let go of what doesn't, because it's all in you. So the more we can cultivate that, that's how we win. Yeah, I'm kind of sad today, but I'm hopeful, and I think that's growth, and I've come a long way to be able to feel that I'm not spiraling. I'm just here. I'm grateful to be here, and I'll take the rough with the smooth. I guess that's being content, and I guess that's the best thing in the world. So aim for that. You do you, they'll do them, and if that aligns, beautiful. And if it parts, beautiful. It is what it is till it isn't. 7 billion people in the world. So much life out there to be had, so many people to meet, so I appreciate the lessons. I hope that helps. Please subscribe, please share, and please let me know what you'd like next. Bye!